Hi there, it's Christy with Life in Specs. There are the specs. I'm here today with a little list for you of things that help me feel better when I'm having a rough health day. I mentioned in a previous video that I have chronic health conditions that sometimes leave me feeling extremely fatigued. Some days are better than others, and on the good days, I'm able to do maybe 40 to 50% of what I would really like to be able to do. On the less good days, my percentage is much less than that. And on those days, I'm very discouraged because I can't do what I want to do. I don't feel as if I'm contributing to the world the way that I wish. And I don't feel like the person I have always hoped and wanted to be. This isn't what I planned. It isn't what I hoped for in life. And so I had to come up with sort of a treatment plan, a little prescription for myself of ways that I could help myself feel emotionally better, ways that I could nurture myself and comfort myself when there was no one else around to do it. And the first one is wear soft, comfy, flowing clothes that feel like a hug. I really like flowy, lightweight clothes that don't cling too much and that are very soft on the skin. I can't handle itchy tags and little pieces of clothing that poke me or rub me. And I especially like clothing that has a really light, floaty, feminine texture, and also clothing that feels really soft when you touch it. And so wearing those type of things on a day where I don't feel very well makes me happier than I would otherwise feel, and that's always wonderful. I also want to mention under this point that it really does help to use whatever energy I have first to make myself look as cute as possible. Maybe this is a girl thing, but I just keep going with it because it keeps on working for me. It is not okay with me to feel bad and then to go to the bathroom and look in the mirror and realize that I look like a 70-year-old woman with crazy hair and huge bags under my eyes. I'm not okay with that. That doesn't make me feel any better. That makes me feel worse. I don't want to look like a witch, even if I feel not very well. And so I will put a lot of energy out of my stockpile into looking as reasonably cute as possible because it does actually help me feel quite a bit better. Number 2, nourishing healthy plant foods. I am a vegan. I don't eat anything that came from an animal, and that has helped my health significantly. There are a number of conditions that I struggle with a lot less than I should for the diagnoses that they are. I believe that the improvement in those areas is because I've removed the most inflammatory foods from my diet. I love all of the beautiful colors that exist in plant foods, in vegetables, and in fruits, and I eat as many of them as I can. And they, I know, help my body to heal, but they also help me to believe that I am nourishing myself as well as I possibly can so that my body can do what it needs to do and so that it can feel safe and protected. I probably should have put this first, but I typed these out in no specific order. And number 3 is prayer and Bible reading. I am a follower of Jesus, and spending time focused on what he wants to do through my circumstances and how he wants me to respond to the challenges in my life reminds me that it's not about me. I'm doing the best that I possibly can with what he has allowed to come into my life. And even though I don't think my situation is extremely easy, I know that he will use it somehow. And sometimes all those things sound very trite. And I love to read the Psalms in those times and Job because those writers were very challenged in their lives and wounded and hurting, and they still chose to trust God and to do what he wanted them to do as best they could in the moment. And God came through for them. And I know that he will come through for me too. I also practice meditation. And for those of you who don't know very much about meditation, it is not about trying to clear your mind or go to a separate astral plane. I just am training my mind to be still. Especially with any sort of illness, there's a lot of fear about what the future holds and about whether I'm acceptable to other people even though I'm not what I wish I were. And those thoughts are not helpful to me. They don't serve me. And just as God says, we need to be still. We need to be still and let him worry about a lot of those things that we can't control. And I have found that sitting meditation, that moving meditation like yoga, that body scan meditations really help me to train my brain to not jump around so much. And they really have trained my spirit to be able to sit in calmness better than before. I am by no means proficient, but I keep practicing, and I do believe that I am being calmed by the practice and being able to sit with peace a little better. And that's kind of the goal. I'll put some resources down below. I've recently gotten some great books on the topic, especially mindfulness meditation as it relates to chronic illness. And I really am very happy with what I'm learning from those, and I hope they're helpful to you as well. I also do a lot of guided meditations that are available on YouTube, and one of my favorites is a Christian one that I have found really useful, and the guy's voice is just so lovely and soothing that it's nice just to listen to. Number 5 is cooking. This one only applies if I'm in an okay energy state where it's not too hard on me to think about working on ingredients and standing up for as long as I need to stand up to do cooking. The kind that I feel is the most helpful is where I don't need a recipe. I'm just chopping vegetables and roasting them, or throwing together some sort of a soup that I don't really have to think very much about. Those are the best kind of, I don't really want to call them recipes because I don't really measure and organize quite that way with those kind of recipes, but those are the kind of kitchen activities that I find the most soothing. And it does more than one thing. I feel like I'm emotionally taking care of myself through the meditative and repetitive action of the chopping or the roasting or whatever the case may be. But I also find some peace in the fact that I'm taking care of the future me. I'm not ignoring the future me in protection of the current me. I'm thinking about me later tonight or me tomorrow who will need some good food and who will appreciate that someone else cooked it for me, although that someone else is the current me. And there's something very satisfying about taking care of myself that way. Number 6 is walking outside in beautiful surroundings. This is not something I can do this time of year. It is 109 degrees today here in Chandler, Arizona, and it's just not, I can't go for a big walk outside. Heat also sometimes exacerbates my symptoms, and so it's not a good idea for me to be out in the heat. What I do is very early in the morning, I will go out on my patio and I will look up through the tree branches to the blue sky, and I will appreciate the nature that there is right in my own backyard. I also have a little fountain in my backyard that draws a lot of birds, especially when it's very hot, and I feed birdseed to the birds right outside my kitchen window. So I can appreciate that, and so can my beautiful cats. In the wintertime, I love to go hiking, and mostly it's pretty simple hikes, not very long and not very steep, but far enough away from houses and buildings and cities that I can just appreciate the beauty of the desert and the sky and the plants and animals, and it makes it a lot easier to remember who I am because originally I was an adventurer. Being in nature makes me remember who I believe I truly am, rather than the me that is limited by my illnesses. Number 7, ambient music. It doesn't have to be ambient, but I prefer to have music around me that doesn't have a tune necessarily and that doesn't have words. I'll put a link to my very favorite ambient artist and album down below. I hope you like it. Number 8 is reading. I have to admit that sometimes I am tired enough that even reading doesn't really seem to catch me, and it's always been my favorite thing since I could read. And so sometimes reading doesn't work, but when I can read, I try to read books that are encouraging, that are uplifting, that will either make me laugh or will make me reappreciate how blessed it is to even have a life, to have people in life who love me. And I have a few books that I will recommend for you down below. Everyone has very different reading habits and preferences, but I'll link to some of the books that fulfill those requirements for me, and maybe they will for you too. I don't know. Number 9, when reading doesn't work, there is always TV. And I am thankful for that because it really does help me to feel less alone, less isolated, and less annoyed sometimes at not being able to do very much on certain days. My favorite TV shows are all of the different Star Treks and Red Dwarf. That's a comedy, so that's always good. And I really love Northern Exposure, which is from the late 80s, early 90s, I guess. And I'm just finishing rewatching those, and they are really very, very good. There are a lot of TV shows that I like. Those are probably my favorites that I go back to multiple times because they just make me feel like home. Number 10 is cat snuggles. Woohoo! I really love my cats, and I honestly believe that God sent this particular batch of them to us because he knew that I was going to need some extra caretaking during these years where I have been less well. And we have a bunch of cats. We have cats right now who are very personable, very social, and who absolutely love me to pieces. They follow me from room to room, they bring me toys, they get all upset if they don't get enough snuggles in a particular day, and there are times I'm pretty sure that God sent 1 or 2 of them to bug me relentlessly until I sat down and snuggled. And it wasn't for the snuggles, it was for me because I needed to stop and rest. I am really thankful for those little fuzzy guys. They bring me a lot of joy. They are funny. They are a sensory treat with the purring and the whiskers and the nice soft fur. And they're really lovely little personalities to have around when I feel lonely or just forget how lovely life can be. I hope some of these hints helped you, and I hope that on your sad days you have a self-care list that reminds you of who you are in your innermost being, and that person is valuable and important, even if you are sick. Have a wonderful day. Bye.